Spencer is making headway on the football field. Olivia started to make a shift, but is back on her NIL story. And Patience and Layla might be finding their way to finalizing her album. What's good, y'all? She gets this Erica Vane coming to you right here on Erica Vane TV with another All-American video. In this video, we are breaking down episode 8, Cream. Cash rules everything around me. Cream. Don't mind my impromptu. How are y'all on this lovely Tuesday? I'm so excited to recap this episode. This is one episode this season that I'm very, very excited about. We've gone through a little bit of ups and downs and trying to get in the swing of things and get the flow. I am still readjusting to what I feel like is a new format for All-American. In this episode, it brought it. Of course, I've been obsessed with All-American Homecoming, so if you missed that, check out my breakdown for the last night's episode of All-American Homecoming after you finish watching this one. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and join the tribe so that you don't miss out on any of my All-American Universe content. But I feel back in the swing of things because this episode, it gave a lot. It gave us a lot to talk about. I go live every Monday night, typically to talk about initial reactions, get y'all's reactions, and for us to discuss the shows that are taking place in All-American Universe. You can also check out my live replay. It's available in the cards above as well as the description box down below if you missed it. But without further ado, let's get into episode 15. All right, so the NIL conversation is still very, very prevalent in this episode, and it's going to continue, I think, for the rest of the season, honestly. Olivia is working a story about the NIL deals, one that I 100% think was brought on by her jealousy for Davida or her insecurity around Davida and her perspective in bringing Spencer along and trying to get Spencer to cultivate his online brand, to parlay further notoriety for him and basically work another way for him to be able to climb up and make it onto the depth chart and get onto the field, right? So we saw that in last week's episode. She feels a way about it. Okay, cool. And at the top of this episode, she still is speaking about it and she's practicing for a pitch. She kind of shuts Spencer down when he, instead of speaking up about potential blind spots that Olivia has, he kind of tempers his response to her initially. It's not until she goes into her pitch is dismissed by her editor, and when her editor lets her know like this story is basically a dime a dozen, so many people are talking about it, it's going to be a no-go, completely forget about it. It's not until then when they're re-talking about this conversation that Spencer's like, well, maybe you need to get a different perspective and you haven't lived this and all of that. And I'm just like, Lord. What is confusing to me out of this whole thing, y'all, is that by the end of the episode, which is actually way before the end of the episode, Olivia goes and talks to Billy. She gets a little bit more perspective, and then she makes peace with Davida. And she also double backs to Spencer and lets him know, like, yo, I really should have listened to you, which that was a thing that I was so proud of Olivia for doing. And for all of the people who were concerned or got an attitude or hating on me because of my criticism of Olivia, that moment was a great example of what I was looking for her to do in previous moments. Her go to Spencer and say that she was wrong, say that she should have listened, listen to other people's perspective and not just rush in like a bull in a china shop with her perspective, her opinion, as if she knows everything that is right and correct. And while she didn't verbalize the words, I apologize, she did take the time to say, you know, I got further perspective. She did go and approach Davida. She got additional perspective from there. She told him that he brought a different part to the story that she didn't see, and she should have actually listened to him. And that is good enough for me. If she don't say the words, I apologize, at least she said that. And that is what I am looking for from Olivia. In the moment when they had their first fight, I wanted her to keep this energy or have this energy. Last episode, when they had additional little spat about Davida, I wanted her to have this energy. So if anybody's ever confused, this is the energy that I want. Her holding herself accountable, her being able to be self-aware, her being able to seek out additional opinions other than her own versus running with whatever her thoughts, feelings, and emotions are as if they are the universal truth, because in fact, they are not. Now, what I do struggle with is that by the end of the episode, she gets additional information from Jordan, which she typically would not get except for the fact that the winning QB, who just basically took the spot of the NFL hopeful senior QB on his team in this moment of, you know, his bad decision, Max Waters, Olivia gets this information from her brother and is going to turn around and use it for this NIL story, which her editor told her to squash. And what I struggle with is, why does Olivia care so much? She supposedly made peace with Davida, like heard Davida out. They seemed to be cool. She invited Davida to the beach house, which I kind of wish that Davida didn't go to the beach house, because Davida, whatever you do not get inducted into this friend group. Do not get inducted into this friend group. Jamie was right. This episode just was giving. It had out all of the things, y'all. Jamie was right. It's a vortex. She's already dating Asher, so she's going to be sucked in regardless. But Davida, you can still save yourself, sis, and make sure that whatever this friendship is with Spencer, whatever this relationship is that you're developing with Spencer, is protected and future-proofed if you don't get into this friend group. Please don't get into this friend group. Stay away from this damn beach house. But I don't understand why Olivia is still so drawn to this story. The editor lets her know, like, she needs to, if she wants to get her first byline, she needs to speak from something that is not just so generic and plenty of people are writing about it. And I would even bring to her attention of, like, speak from a place that you know, like, while you are in close proximity to NIL, you are not an athlete, so you don't even have to think about any of the things that are on the table for these people. When Spencer and Olivia were talking in the kitchen and he's putting away the dishes, and he lets her know, like, yo, you didn't live it. And then he instantly apologizes because of how that seemed to come off and how she received it. And she kind of storms off after saying, well, you know, you're right, I'm privileged. But if you think that my privilege invalidates my perspective, then there's nothing else to argue about. And honestly, y'all, that really sat with me, because while I don't want to ever tell anybody that their opinion or their thought is invalid, it kind of is in this place. Like, Olivia has no ties directly to name, image, and likeness and the benefits or the detriments. Now, people that she loves are currently pursuing nil deals and navigating spaces that are having nil conversations. But whether she bashes it or praises it, it does absolutely nothing for her. And that, some people would say, will be great, because that allows for her to have the objectivity that you need within journalism, except for the fact that Olivia is not actually objective. She has a perspective and she infuses and creates narrative based on her perspective and her perspective alone. And often, now, while she has corrected herself in part of this and seeking out Davida's feedback and getting feedback from her editor and all of that, I struggle with the fact that by the end of the episode, she doubles back after getting this information about Max Waters from her brother and completely does not think of how this will affect Jordan. How would this blow back on Jordan? It was giving 100% Tamika Pratt vibes. It was giving release the body cam footage vibes. And it was giving she has yet to learn from those particular points, from that particular circumstance. And then on top of that, y'all, if we go back to earlier in the episode when they were having a conversation, Olivia literally approached Spencer about being the face of the article, which is supposed to take down Neil or expose how bad name, image, and likeness these NIL deals are for these athletes. And she knows that he is pursuing opportunities to license his name, image, and likeness. She knows that he is looking for money from these deals, and she still asks him anyway. That's what I mean when I say that she is not actually objective, because she's not fully taking into account the people around her. And then just so happen the people around her are the ones who are going to be most deeply affected. I was so very proud of Spencer for not just going along with it and actually speaking up like, no, I can't do that. I'm actually seeking out these deals. How in the hell am I going to be the face of an article that says that these deals are bad when I literally want to get one or two? Make it make sense. And then I go back to the idea of, you're doing all of this for what? Because even if you get the article that you want, why do you want this, Olivia? Why do you want this so bad? If anything, I feel like she has so many great resources and stories to pull from her own experience. At this point, I'm struggling with expose Olivia. I understood her motivations when she released that body cam footage and when we were talking about Black Lives Matter and how she wanted to do something. Shout out to Bondi Blue. She's an amazing YouTuber with a dope perspective that breaks down scripted and unscripted series as well here on YouTube. I played a clip from one of her videos last night during my live where she talks about Olivia potentially being insecure when it came to Davida because Olivia's biracial, and how she feels about her blackness or proximity to it or authenticity in it being a thing that also motivates her to kind of go OD when it comes to some of these things. And I'm just going to go ahead on the record and say I'm over expose Olivia. Until she gets to the point where she's exposing herself, she's exposing her lived experiences, her trauma, her pain, and creating narratives where other people can learn, grow, heal from that. I don't want to see it anymore, because for what we're getting right now, it's really just, I'm going to go and figure out all of the pitfalls, holes, and issues within other people's lives, situations, and circumstances, and I'm going to expose that, but then I'm going to sit back and I'm going to ignore all the things that are in my backyard. And I don't really like that. I don't like that she's disregarding the position that she's about to put Jordan into after she outs this information that she would never have had Jordan not been her brother and mentioned it to her as her brother. I don't like her even coming up with the idea of wanting Spencer to be the face of her story just so that she can get her story off, regardless of what that would mean for Spencer never getting an NIL deal the rest of his whole collegiate career. But you got that one story off for the online LA Tribune. Girl, what? Let's talk about drug use. Let's talk about alcohol abuse in teens. Let's talk about the road to recovery. Let's talk about navigating friend groups. Let's talk about falling in love with your best friend's man. There's plenty of things within Olivia's arsenal or realm of knowledge that she can speak from a firsthand perspective of and examine that would be amazing personal interest stories and or exposés. But she really, really avoids all of the things about herself. And I think that's what I'm struggling with. I made a comment yesterday and I was like, Olivia could not make it out the episode without me just being proud of her. The start of the episode, I was very concerned with how she was moving with the NIL. She didn't drop it. She told Spencer that she wasn't going to drop it. She going to figure it out. Cool. Then they had a little, it wasn't a tiff, but it was a little, he had to say something and he goes back and apologizes. She storms off. Okay, cool. She gets more perspective. And in that moment when she goes to talk to Billy and she talks to Davida, I'm like, yes, Olivia, I'm so proud of you. It could not be left at that. She had to take this information from Jordan and pick this back up. So now I'm back to square one. Like, Olivia, girl, what are we doing? And why are we doing it? Don't you have anything else to do, mama? Anything else that you could focus on? Anything else that you could celebrate and uplift? Whew. All right, so enough about Olivia, because I definitely spoke a lot about it. Drop down and let me know your thoughts on her with this NIL story in the comment section down below. Why do you think that she is pushing so hard to get this story out in particular? I do love watching Spencer step a little bit more into his voice. I think that in this episode now, y'all can visualize some of the things that I was alluding to in my last two videos. So if you missed it, I did a video of, is this the beginning of the end for Olivia, where I asked a question and posed some thoughts around some of the things that happened last week's episode, as well as should Spencer stand up to Olivia. And I think in this episode, we got to see the answer to that. As I said in my video, I do think that he should. And this is what that looks like. It looks like pointing out her privilege in moments where she's standing on the hill screaming about revolution and she doesn't really get the nuances of what's happening below her in the town. I think as certain things are affecting Spencer, I personally would love to see him speak on those things versus silencing himself with the intention of protecting his relationship. Because ultimately, if you can't be honest, if you can't be authentic, if you can't hold one another accountable within your relationship, then your relationship is already not in a good place to begin with. And I do think that we have seen Spencer silence himself, stop himself from talking, or just bite his tongue in general under the guise of just trying to allow Olivia as much space to be seen and heard. But when you're in a relationship, both of you have to be seen and heard. And whether y'all want to admit it or not, we have seen a change in Spencer from season 3 till now, where he is a lot more mild, and not in a sense of like a good humility, calming down of the rambunctious, angry energy, but also more mild as in cautious and walking on eggshells, because he don't want to go back down the relapse journey with Olivia. He don't want to be a trigger. He don't want to be a burden. He don't want to be a stressor to her. But in that, in trying to protect her in that way, and protect her by enabling her to continue to act in her privilege, going unchecked sometimes, and silencing your opinions or your thoughts, or stopping yourself midway through and not allowing yourself to be seen and heard in your relationship, it ultimately creates, as I mentioned, an unhealthy situation all around. So I was glad to see Spencer to start to stand up for himself in this episode. But we did get quite a few moments where Spencer's just staring off. So there's a moment where they're supposed to have snack time and he was late, and they talk really quickly, and then Olivia gets up and leaves, and we get a little look back from him and then a stare off. And then there's a moment before Davita comes out at the beach house, and Spencer's just sitting off to himself and looking out, and he's thinking, and I'm just like, I wonder what is he thinking in these moments? What is happening in that brain up there? There's more happening than what Spencer James is letting on, and I guess we're just gonna have to wait to see. Aside from that, Asher's kicking it with Jamie this episode, and he decides to introduce her to the gang, bringing her to Slauson Cafe to watch the GAU game, where all of everybody's information decides to fall out of the closet. And by golly, Miss Molly, I'm actually glad it did. So in reading the synopsis, I was not excited about seeing an outsider come in and read the group for filth, but Jamie did it so beautifully. She did it so nuancedly, and it made total sense. She presents the idea that this group is a vortex. They live together, they work together, they go to school together, so of course they're running around dating each other. And it's spurred by Patience confronting Layla about being all over her about this damn title for this album and how she's kind of smothering her. And Jamie's like, it makes sense that she kind of wants to break away because y'all are like a vortex. And it's so very real. It is time to open this joint up. This is why I don't want the V to end the damn group. Don't nobody else join the vortex. Please, y'all, go and try to experience other people that are outside of the vortex. Stop limiting yourself to just each other. Stop just dating each other and having all this drama with each other. There's so much more to life out there. There's so many more people out there for y'all to experience, to learn, to love, to grow with besides each other. And that don't mean that y'all don't have to be there for each other, but yes, everything has been kept in the group for so very long, and I'm so glad that Jamie brought it to everybody's attention, because I think people are going to start to move differently now because of it. Thank God. Shout out to Billy Baker providing the comedic relief as he's stressing watching his boys play football. Y'all, he gonna make his way back onto that coaching. He gonna go coach up at GAU at some point. Season 5, we probably gonna see Billy coaching at GAU because he's hollering about passes and all this. And I gotta now pay attention to football because I didn't know what was going on. I was like, Spencer's a gunner. What does that mean? I don't understand. Billy hollering about not another pass or something. And I'm just like, I don't know what they saying, but I get the emotion behind it, so I'm following. But now I gotta watch football because I don't watch football, so I have no idea what they doing when they call out certain things. So was saying DB, and I was like, what the hell is that? And then I got to the point I was like, oh wait, is that defensive back? I know a QB is a quarterback, but clearly I need to brush up on my football knowledge. I am appreciative though that we're getting more football, because this is something that a lot of fans have been missing, and it seems so very authentic. Like I said, they're using all the words of the game and plays and different things. Like, it just feels very, very real. And now I want to go watch real football so I can know what the hell is actually happening. And Coop is keeping up her little shift. Last episode, we saw a pivot to her, and she's calmed down a lot. And while she's still trying to fix things, in this episode, she's trying to fix things for one of her residents who she thinks granddaughter is stealing from her. For the most part, she's still very mild, and we love this Coop. We want this Coop to stay around. She actually brings to her residents' attention that she thinks that the earrings that were missing were stolen by her granddaughter, but come to find out, she took the earrings just so she could turn them into a necklace because her grandmother couldn't wear them anymore. And then y'all are calling out that this girl might be Coop's next love interest, and maybe I didn't pick up on any of those hints, whether it was Jamie talking about how fine she was or the girl telling her, if you got a question, slide in my DMs. I was just like, well, she didn't have her phone number, so of course the girl gonna be like, well, next time that you want to tell my grandmother that I'm stealing from her, how about you ask me in my DMs first? But you know, I'm a different person. Y'all saw the little love connection or the little spark or something. I didn't see it just yet. I don't see Coop actually moving on from Patience anytime soon. I think that she broke up with Patience to give Patience the space that she needs, and I don't think that she's actually looking to get into another relationship anytime soon. But again, that's just me and my thoughts. Now, aside from that, Mr. Jordan Baker decides to show up and show out, and apparently he's been doing an amazing job at practice. Max Waters creates an opportunity with his little Aria private jet deal and him skipping practices and doing whatever the hell he think he wants to do because he's an NFL hopeful and he just know that his don't stink. Well, guess what? Jordan Baker's here with that cannon of an arm. He's shown up, shown out, and in this episode, he is able to help the team win the game, bringing the spotlight onto him, and we might see Jordan actually, as a freshman, take the QB1 spot right from the senior. We love to see it. I ain't even gonna hold you. We love to see it. That's what happens when you rest on your laurels and you think that you better than you are. That's how it goes sometimes. And shout out to Spencer and Jordan for showing up for each other in the way they did in this episode. I love seeing them navigate as brothers. It just gives me all the great feels. And we, y'all, really might be on the brink of a full storyline for Jordan. I am excited. We're entering the Jordan Baker era. And I cannot wait to see more. We get even little tidbits from Simone leaving him a message about how excited she was watching the game back at home. We haven't, the All-American Homecoming and All-American are not at the exact same time on the timeline, but they're hovering around. Like, I feel like they're probably like a month out from each other. So no, the Homecoming episode doesn't match up to the All-American episode, but I love that they gave the tidbits of their relationship. It's still going strong and still doing well, and they're still very connected and making an effort to stay connected, because Lord knows Simone is going through down there at Brinkston. And I believe, I don't know this to be true, y'all, but I believe that Homecoming's timeline is a little bit ahead of All American's timeline. Yeah, y'all, and those are my thoughts. Let me know all your thoughts in the comment section down below. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, turn on your bell notifications so you don't miss out on any of my All-American videos. I can't wait to check out y'all comments about the episode. Give me all your thoughts, theories, predictions in the comment section down below. Give this video a like because you made it all the way to the end and I know that you liked it. And when you go and post your comment, put 4 football emojis in the comment section so I know that you watched the whole video through and you're a real one and I gotta show you some extra special real love. It's your good sis Erica Vane and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.